I just wanted to add these notes to the front of this video on the DIY extractor that we made. In the video it's not perfectly clear, but underneath this makeshift enclosure to keep the Sweetwater air pump out of the rain, that is a 1 horsepower Sweetwater air pump, and it's coming up to a T. There's a flexible pipe that comes off to the pump that comes up to a T that then comes down through these two ball valves. One of these lines, 1.5 lines, actually goes to a PVC pipe that runs horizontally near the bottom of the tank, and you'll see that in the video, with actually 3 16-inch diameter holes drilled in the bottom of it. And the other side of the T comes down and goes into this network of piping that's feeding these 4 nylon mesh bags that are hanging off of this just makeshift wooden framework. Some notes on things that we would do differently is, in the video I talk about the fact that that 2-inch semi-automatic T-screen filter, so it's the one with the crank on the top that you can clean the screen while you're still sending material through. As I mentioned in the video, we needed to go down to an 80 mesh screen in that filter, and even that was too fine given the size of the nylon mesh bags, given the mesh size on the nylon bags. So the nylon bags actually had a 60 mesh, that's 250 microns, 60 mesh. And so if you got an 80 mesh, which is a 175 micron screen in that T-screen filter, the one with the crank on it, obviously you're going to be sending a lot of larger particles that are going to get caught up in that T-screen filter, and that's exactly what happened. It plugged up really fast. So I would change next year. We're going to use 100 mesh on our nylon mesh bags and then run that 80 mesh filter in that 2-inch semi-automatic T-screen filter. The Hydrocyclone Sand filter or sand separator that you'll see in there, that's 110 gallons per minute. Also, as mentioned in the video, you'll see that with that T-screen filter that we were deforming the screen inward, and in part that had to do with the fact that, we were getting a lot of sediment really quickly building up on the screen, and then of course the trash pump was trying to push it through, so to deform the screen inward, and as I mentioned in the video, ended up damaging the screen when we turned the crank. But even then, I'm thinking the trash pump is maybe a little bit too big for these smaller screen sizes that we're running. I did have it basically idling when it was running, but perhaps we should use a smaller pump there and just put up with the slightly longer times to transfer from the extraction tote to the holding totes that we used, which then we transferred onto the planter. Also, in this setup, we've got the blower on top. That's because this rig was actually initially used to make compost tea, and we still use it for compost tea, and it was actually based upon a GeoTea compost tea brewer, and I'll include the show notes in that below, as well as just this kind of overall approach of using these nylon mesh bags attached to the rims of 5-gallon buckets. That's actually based upon a DIY Bio 5 extractor plans that you can get. I don't know if you can get them anymore because I think they're shutting down. Their number was 605-260-0784. You can get plans from them. So yeah, so our design was loosely based on both of those, but with the blower on top here, you really gotta plan out your arrangement of where your buckets are going to go and stuff, because you know they're have a certain size to them, and to snake them down in between these openings here, like I said, you got to plan that out. In the future, or for somebody else that is thinking to do this, why not put the blower right on the ground and just use 2 flexible pipes, or 1 flexible pipe that comes up to a T that then plumbs down into these 2 air pipes, 1.5-inch PVC air pipes. It will certainly make installing and removing the nylon mesh bags a lot easier. And also these lids here, we actually slotted them. Initially we had holes drilled in them, and it was too much of a hassle, but I have to think about another way to do the lids so that we get better containment of material, so that I can open this ball valve more on the air coming into these nylon mesh bags, because I really want to roil that water in there with air a lot to try and drive out as many microbes as I can, as quickly as I can, as well as the bags themselves, the shape of the nylon bags themselves. My wife actually just sewed those up using nylon thread in a sewing machine, and we just ordered the, I don't know if you call it fabric or sheet material, a nylon mesh fabric, but the shape, so the shape I would change to sort of a tapered or an upside down cone shape, so that all these larger particles and sediment that tends to build up in the bag doesn't get hung up on one side and you're bubbling on the other side, and you're not really agitating that. I'd make it cone shaped so that everything tends to flow towards the bottom of the bag, where of course air is being injected through the PVC pipe. So I'm going to go ahead and run the video now that I shot of this rig in operation.